I'm gonna go with it.
Let's go.
All right, so let's start over.
Okay.
Oh, let's start over.
Good.
Because I think a lot of people didn't get to see.
All right, well then let's just start over from the beginning.
The introduction.
I am Gary, and this is Stacy. We're Pop Hunter Travels.
Hi, welcome to our channel.
This is Justin Ford, and his beautiful wife over here is with us as well, off camera. This is Stacy over here as well. You guys are opting out of normal.
Yes.
And today, I believe we're going to try to have John Hebert on chat with us today as well to talk about his solar install that we helped him with. But we're talking about our RV solar systems today. John installed his pretty much by yourself.
Yeah, Justin.
Justin installed his pretty much by himself. We installed John's, and I assisted a little bit with Brian Boone on our install. So that's just kind of a brief summary of what happened. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your system? And if you guys are if you guys started with us a bit ago, we're gonna repeat some of that for the newcomers, and actually you might be able to hear it this time too. So
Yes.
if you want to tell us about your setup there, Justin, that'd be great.
Well, my system, I have 1,400 watts of solar, of panels on the roof. I have an 80 amp Outback. It's an FM80 flex back charge controller.
Where the volume loop?
Chat. Okay, volume's off.
Sorry. Okay. Whew. I was gonna say what's going on. So we have a FlexMax 80 Outback charge controller that collects the solar power and charges the batteries with it.
Sure.
As far as converting battery bank to 120, I have a Go Power 2,000 watt inverter charger. It has the hybrid technology in it.
That's so cool.
And hybrid technology, what that means is that it is able to take whatever source of supply I am connected to, as far as a park pedestal or a generator or something like that, plugged into a friend's 15 amp circuit in a garage. It'll allow that power to come into the trailer, and then if my load requirement is bigger than that power coming in, the inverter is smart enough to convert power from the battery bank to
so it's pulling from for a microwave use or something like that.
Correct.
It's pulling from the 15 amp circuit and from the batteries at the same time.
Yes.
And pushing whatever power requirements
I have
for the microwave or whatever
microwave or whatever else.
And I've heard some people are actually running air conditioners with this stuff off of a small generator with a hybrid inverter.
Yes. Because it basically takes your inverter power and whatever power you're running your generator or whatever that is, you can actually power and fully function an AC.
Right.
That
Now keep that in mind. Keep in mind though, even though you're running the generator and the AC is running, you're also still pulling juice from your batteries that needs to be restored before the evening's over or before your son is gone.
Yes. Yeah, there's potential that you could run your battery bank down
Fairly quickly.
So back to my system as far as the battery bank goes.
Watch your head. You can close the counter doors.
I'm so anxious to hear about this subject.
Sorry, we're trying.
We're trying. Is it going? Does it say it's going up there?
Oh, it just popped up another window. What's it say?
Can you see it on the TV?
I can see a glare. I can't tell what it is.
Yeah.
But...
I think it's going the wrong way.
Oh. Well, hello, YouTube.
Wow.
Hold on.
Who did that?
Sound is back.
Okay, video back.
Are we good now? Thumbs up?
Thumbs up, thumbs down, yeah, go, yeah.
Okay. They say they're okay.
Okay.
Wow.
That was your phone doing that.
Hey, my phone.
I guess I gotta stay here and monitor.
Can you see the questions?
I can see the questions as they pop up.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
I'll stay over here. You go sit down, and I'll let you know. There's a problem.
So we good? We're going. We're going.
Lordy.
Okay. Continue on, Justin.
Okay. So, based on my evaluation of my requirements,
What did it do?
She's making faces back
she's
here.
making faces at us. I calculated based on what our requirements were, and that's what I bought my battery bank as.
Mhm.
You know, I figured 690 amp hours is technically going to give me roughly 200 amp hours of usable power to provide me.
And that's you're figuring at 80%.
Yeah, because 80%, I'm going to get the maximum lifetime
Of those
out
batteries.
of my batteries.
Right.
So, cost effectiveness, I was willing to give up the weight
Mm-hmm.
of the lead acid batteries to allow me, the cheaper cost in the long run.
Right. And using them at 80%, your life expectancy of those batteries is upwards of 1,200 cycles, which is about 5 years, 12 to 1,500 cycles.
Yeah.
Which is about 6 years probably.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that within the next, at this point I've been full time for a year, so I'm really hoping that within the next 4 years they come up with technology that allows the lithium batteries to be way less cheaper or
way less expensive.
way less expensive, or another alternative,
Right.
whether it's it's totally something different than lithium
Or whatever it is.
or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I'm hoping to find a cheaper alternative next time around.
Sure.
But at this point, the long term, we're set up, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
We have no issues with our system.
Good.
And we use it. We power a toaster. We get up. We run the microwave in the morning. We run a coffee pot in the morning.
Do you have a residential refrigerator or a regular RV refrigerator?
When we bought our trailer, we bought it with a propane refrigerator,
Okay.
because that was one of our reasons,
Mhm.
or one of the ways that we were able to keep our power requirements down, enabling us to have a smaller battery bank.
Sure.
Based on what I've seen, and you have live experience, and everyone else that I've talked to that has John, has a residential refrigerator.
It just adds a whole new ball into the wax.
Just some basic numbers to keep in mind. For a typical residential refrigerator,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about needing 600 to 800 watts of solar.
Yep.
And 2 to 4 batteries.
I'd say 4 to 6 batteries minimum.
Well, just to be able to get it through the next overnight.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question.
Whoa.
Bill King asks, how much weight are you adding to the RV with all the batteries that are added?
My batteries weigh approximately, I want to say 56 to 60
pounds,
some
yeah.
pounds a piece.
So you initially your RV had 2 batteries
I
that were in
had
that
2.
same range.
Yes.
And you added 4 additionals.
I've added 4 additionals. So
200 to 300 extra pounds.
yeah, I mean, ballpark, you're looking at, just over 330, 350 pounds of
battery.
Of lead acid battery to my battery, for my battery.
And
bank.
well, with that though, you also included a homemade battery box that you built.
Yes.
Your Go Power inverter is also up there in the front box.
Yes.
And all the heavy gauge wiring used to interconnect the batteries and tie everything else together. So, I mean, all that stuff, it's not just the weight of the batteries.
Yeah,
It's everything
There's-
combined.
When you look at the weight of the panels, I think each panel is 30
5 to 40 pounds.
30. Well, I
Not
don't know
even
if it's
that
that
much.
heavy.
30
It's probably mid-30s,
Mhm.
you know, low to mid-30s each, and I have 8 panels up there on the roof.
Yeah.
So, you know, ballpark, you know, you are adding quite a bit of weight. And it's something that, you know, everybody has to evaluate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know,
Joe Allen makes a good point. He says the problem with additional weight is most fibers are already borderline to start.
Correct.
And the biggest thing that we've learned is that, you know, there's give and take on everything.
Right.
And, you know, there's when you look at your trailers,
Mhm.
when you're looking at your fibers or your travel trailers or however you're going to go and install your whatever you're going to install your solar system on, it's something you have to evaluate.
Right.
That's
Well,
why we gave up our
Well,
fifth wheel, our last one.
Right. It did
Yeah.
the solar. It would not have handled the solar.
No.
Right.
And the way you positioned the heavy bulk part of your solar, the batteries and the inverter, you put it in the very front compartment,
So
the axles aren't taking as much of the
as
weight.
much. Most of
Most of
my
it's on
weight
the
is
pin.
being transferred to the pin.
But you still have to be considerate of your gross vehicle weight rating.
Yes, yes. And when we looked at going and doing this full time thing, we knew right from the get go that you know, you don't necessarily have to be, you know, minimalist and carry around 51 things in a backpack,
Mm-hmm.
but you're definitely going to have to make decisions on what is, you know, your material items and what's really important.
Right.
Well, I know a lot of people also with John's install were commenting about all the weight up front, but also you got to remember that front cap can normally hold a generator weight.
Right. That
Yes.
it is generally that area where we installed all the batteries and John's and yours
Yes.
is made for a generator.
Made for a generator,
So-
which is
so-
a couple 100 pounds anyway.
Easily.
So
That's not a huge deal.
Kevin Barone asks, how many does Gary have in the disco?
Well, should I just go into reviewing our system a little bit, I guess?
yeah.
Okay, so our disco, we've got 4 100-watt solar panels and 4 165-watt solar panels, so that gives us 1,060
40.
or 1,040 watts total of solar on the roof. We've got 6 Trojan GC2 AGM batteries. They're 220 amp hour each for a total of 660 amp hours. And we go by the 50% philosophy, so our life expectancy of those batteries is not going to be as long as what Justin does at his 80% usage. So at 50% of our battery bank, we're down to 330 hours of usable amp hours. We've got the Magnum 2800 watt pure sine inverter and a Magnum PT100 solar controller. A Magnum battery monitoring kit as well. With our system and the residential refrigerator and the way we use our power, we're finding even what we have now is a bit insufficient.
Especially in the winter.
Especially in the wintertime. It's getting towards the season now where we can start leaving our panels flat, but we're having a hard time getting to 100%. So we are going to upgrade. I'm going to put newer panels on the roof, probably more panels, I'm not sure. And there's a possibility we may go lithium. I'm not sure yet.
I don't know if this pertains to Justin, what he was talking about earlier, but Paraparap asks, ever tried a subcarpal trap converter?
Subcarpal trap converter.
I don't think I've ever heard of a subcarpal trap converter.
If you can explain what that is to us in a bit more detail, maybe we can help you out with that.
Maybe I'll
don't
know
know
exactly what it is. I know with my hybrid. Now your converter is not, or your inverter is not a hybrid.
It is not a hybrid variety. No.
So the benefits of having a hybrid versus a non-hybrid inverter are, you know, just unbelievable.
This leads into Joe Allen's question. He says, I believe that John Hebert is also using a 2,000 watt generator, which with the hybrid, you want to explain
Yes.
that?
Well, yeah, we can talk about John's system too.
Yeah.
And he's got the Magnum 3000 watt hybrid inverter, and he mates that with his Yamaha 2000 watt generator.
His panels, he is running 1600 watts. He's got 8 200 watt panels. And he is pushing those through 2 Morningstar
40 amp MPPTs.
45 amp.
45 amp MPPT.
45 amp MPPT charge controllers.
So we set his roof up basically in he's got basically 2 independent systems. Each 4 panels in the rear go to 1 MPPT controller, and 4 panels in the front of the rig goes to the other MPP controller, and then we tie them together at the batteries.
Yes. And those Morningstar charge controllers have the ability that they do not have to be connected in order to work together.
Correct.
So there's no special communication that has to happen between the two.
Right.
The way their algorithms for charging the batteries, they will work together. You can have multiple charge controllers.
Well, and his batteries, the batteries that he have can take a heck of a lot more than those MPPTs can put through it.
Yes.
Or the Morningstars can put through it. He has the Full River L16 415 amp hour batteries.
Yes.
Big, tall suckers.
4 of them.
4 of them, yes.
Kevin Marone asks, why 2 controllers?
Because he has 1600 watts up on the roof. 1 controller would not be enough to one charge controller wouldn't be enough for all 16 or all 8 of those panels.
I mean, he could have gone with a 100 amp solar controller, but he also wanted redundancy.
Yes. The way his setup is set up, the way his panels are wired up with the 2 basic separate PV arrays up on the roof, it'll allow him the most flexibility if he gets into a spot where half of his trailer is in the shade, half of it's in the sun. Depending on which way he parks, makes a big difference. And because of the angle of his roof line, he was able to collect quite a bit of solar power without getting up and tilting his panels.
Yeah. Question.
Well, Davey Kim says he could have used the PT 100 Magnum.
Well, yes, he could have, and I asked John that too, and he basically said it comes down to what Justin was just saying, the redundancy. So he has 2 independent systems. So if he's parked in a spot where his rear panels are completely shaded, it's not a big deal because he's got his front panels that will still help him through. They're not going to probably be as much as he needs.
Yes. The other benefit, I believe, because he did talk a little bit about it, when you break down the cost difference between the 2 Morningstar controllers versus the 1 Magnum controller.
It saved him a couple $150 to $200 maybe. And also, he really wanted to stay away from a solar controller that had mechanical parts, as like a fan or something like that.
Yes, that was another discussion.
So the Morningstars have no fans. It's cooled by convection, whereas the PT100 has fans and is also cooled by convection.
DNS Adventure says both separate systems set up in series with MPPTs? Question mark.
The charging circuits are basically set parallel. So each one is pushing its own power to the positive side of the battery bank. They're both connected at the same end of the battery bank, so they both push.
Panels coming from the roof, so there's 4 panels on each one of his setups. They are wired in parallel.
Series parallel.
Series parallel. So they're wired positive to negative, and the other 2 are positive to negative, and then they both run together to the bus bars.
Yes.
In the combiner box. Yes. Stacy, question.
Karen Smith asks, "What's your thoughts on 24-volt, 280-watt solar panels?"
Big. They're big. When you're evaluating your panels, I mean, everybody's situation is going to be different.
Right.
My recommendation is look at the square footage that each of those panels is going to take up, and then figure out
where it's going to fit.
Where it's going to fit up on your roof.
The reason why a lot of us go with the 12-volt panels, these smaller panels, is because they do fit on the roof more conveniently than the big 24-volt panels.
Yes.
And technology with Brian Boone's site, the high-tech
panels,
200 watts packed into the same square footage as our 165s.
Yes. And you know, again, technology in the last 2 years has been it's been phenomenal. The steps that have been made in the solar technology.
And another thing with those big panels, I mean, 24 volts is fine. You can bring those down to any solar controller. That's not a problem. You have to remember that these are on top of a RV of some sort, and the size of these panels and the tempered glass that runs that span, will it be able to support the constant earthquake going down the road?
Perfect example is John started with bigger panels,
right?
And they were just too flexible, and it was a little worse.
They were worried about the glass breaking and flexing too much.
The other thing, because of the convex of his roof line,
and most
fifth wheels and trailers,
it would have made it 3 times as difficult to mount those big panels.
Right.
Do you see what I see?
What do you see?
William Kaiser says, "Stop and take a drink."
I've been drinking the whole time.
Let's see here.
Is this a drinking game?
Yes. Drink.
Did I say something?
Maybe not. What's the key word?
So our friend Kevin Barone, he has a travel trailer, and he's asking, can you mount any of the batteries you mentioned outside on the front frame of a travel trailer?
Yes, you can, so long as you enclose them in a weatherproof box. And if you use flooded cell batteries, you'll need to use a vented box of some sort. If you use AGM batteries, the box that you make on the front A-frame of your trailer does not necessarily need to be vented.
But you could maybe put it underneath your couch in your kitchenette.
If they're AGMs, you can.
AGMs, yes.
Yes.
AGMs and lithium.
And lithiums you can put almost anywhere.
Lithium, you need to be careful because lithium...
they can't charge below 32.
You have to make sure that they stay warm.
Mm-hmm.
The AGMs technically don't need to be vented. Now, the first couple charge cycles, there's a potential that they will vent.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to keep that in mind when you figure out your placement of the batteries. Lead acid, they need to be kept in a controlled environment.
Vented environment.
Totally separate from all of your other electronics.
Yeah, lead acid batteries should be separate in a sealed vented box. Does that make sense?
Yes, and not vented to where you have your charge
vented
controllers.
Outside.
Yes.
Question.
Bill King, what is the minimum number of watts that you would recommend you would need for a fifth wheel that has a gas electric fridge?
Minimum amount of watts. So you guys are kind of on the top end of your curve. I mean, you could get away with a bit less if you really needed to.
Correct. I have the 1400 watts being pushed through an 80 amp charge controller. The benefit is that I get through the night, and it's rare that I'm down into the 70% range.
So what do you think? What would you, if you're willing to take your batteries down to 50%? How many would you be able to go away with 2 panels on your roof? So we'd leave you with what, 4 or 6? I mean,
you could get away with a 1,000-watt system.
Yeah.
The thing to keep in mind now, because of advancements in technology, a year ago the highest rated panel was 145 watts.
Mm-hmm.
That's jumped up to 200 watts now. You can get a small being 26 inches by 59 inches approximately for the size of the panel.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get those in 200-watt panels at this point for $185 is what.
So we're still under $1 a watt.
Yeah.
Which is great.
So depending on how agile you are. Do you want to get up and tip your panels all the time?
Right.
Our system, I set it up so that I wasn't going to have to go up onto the roof all the time if I didn't need to. That I could leave the panels flat, and it was a whole lot cheaper to buy the extra panels than anything else.
This is a funny one. Joe Allen says, I know John Hebert had problems with his residential fridge, and yet I have heard others say they're having no problems with what came with their rig to run their fridge.
Well, okay, let's start from the beginning a little bit. I don't know for sure, but I believe the Heberts, in the initial inverter they had set up for their refrigerator was running off of the the OEM batteries, and I believe that was the culprit to everything.
From the manufacturer.
Well, there was, and John might be able to chime in and help
if he's
this
on
out a
chat,
little
We
bit.
haven't seen him yet,
Okay.
but
I know that I've seen where he started out. He had the inverter was wired wrong from the factory through his battery bank, so his battery bank wasn't fully powering the inverter. It then went to the point where he was having issues with the inverter, to the point where the inverter actually had issues and quit working. So then he had another inverter installed, or he installed another inverter. He had this chain of issues.
I think it all stemmed from
Kevin
the
Barone
initial
just said
install.
he thought he was cursed.
Well, yeah, he did. He
that
did.
too.
He did, but now
I'm right with you, Kevin. I think he's still cursed, but that's okay. We'll get him through it.
He reversed it a bit. I mean, it went to the point where he was having control fans and stuff like that on the refrigerator burn out and everything. And then, as we were, like a day before we were installing the system, the refrigerator died again in their rig. And they just said, okay, hold on, just here, everybody else hold my food.
Bless you.
He distributed the contents of his refrigerator to us and you guys and
There was
Andrew.
4 rigs, and we all had his
So we
food.
all had his food, and he just said, we're not going to do anything with this refrigerator until we get the solar installed. And
It
so
was the night we put the batteries
then,
in.
Well,
then we got everything
when
installed.
When we first got the system operational,
we decided, well, let's just put this refrigerator back together.
I was
see what
going through
happens.
step by step with him.
Yeah.
All right, John, show me what wasn't working.
Test this thermocoupler and test this thermostat.
Kevin Barone says, take a drink.
Oh, I've taken it. I had that much to start with. I can't drink much more. I won't be able to talk anymore.
So, yes, John had some pretty bad luck with his. Now, as far as I know, since we put the system in,
And the new batteries. The night of the new batteries.
the new batteries, he has not run into any issues.
Well, he's even saying his hydraulic jacks and slides and stuff are working a lot better now.
Yeah.
So, which I didn't think that he would have, based on the battery bank that he put in and the amp hours of that battery bank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a good size.
It's 816 amp hours.
830 amp
Or
hours.
830, 415 usable. Huge.
So his battery bank should be able to run everything in his trailer. And he said everything in his trailer runs way better than since the day he took it off the lot.
Okay, Good XRVN asks, what happens to solar generated power when the batteries are full and coach is not using the excess?
That's where you run around and turn on all the lights.
You turn everything on, you run extension cords to your neighbor and charge them to...
Instant Pot.
Instant Pot goes on, everything goes on. So actually, with that, honestly though, once your batteries get to a certain point, the solar controller has to
start shedding power.
the amount of power to go into the batteries, and it reduces that power via heat, generally. And it expresses a lot of heat into that battery compartment, or into the compartment where it's housed. So honestly, the best thing to do when your batteries do get to 90, 95%, start using stuff in your rig.
That's a perfect time. We found cooking dinner.
Yep.
With our Instant Pot.
Yep. Start your slow cooker or something.
That's when all your
the Traeger.
The Traeger.
Yep.
All your batter or your high usage
get
stuff,
that vacuum out there. Plug that vacuum in.
That's the time to run the vacuum.
Yeah.
And that'll help use some of that excess power that's coming in.
I mean, it's free power. You're not necessarily wasting it, but you might as well have it there to use, or might as well use it as much as you
battery? Can you tell?
I can't tell.
It should be fine.
There's no battery indicator on here.
So Joe Allen, he made more of a statement, but I thought it'd be good for you to talk about. He says, "I wish we had solar when we did our trip to Alaska last year. Almost the same route as you all just took." You want to explain how solar worked in Alaska for those going north?
Right. So solar did help a lot in Alaska. Alaska's funny though, because it's so far north. And I'm sure you all heard of the term the midnight sun. Well, the sun is up all day, or a lot of the hours of the day. So, for example, it will rise over this direction and skate across the horizon and set. I mean, it'll rotate 270 degrees around you. So, tilting panels is meaningless because you can't tilt in the right direction. So you just have to lay your panels flat and hope you get enough gain during the day. But it worked for us. We still got full charge quite often and enjoyed the use of the solar. But it even though there is sun all day, it rides low on the horizon. And if you tilt your panels for morning sun, you will have no evening sun. If you tilt your panels for afternoon sun, you will have no morning or evening sun. It just because it rises and sets at such huge angles.
Okay, Mark.
I hope that answered the question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, no one really asked about it. I just thought touch base on it. Mark Peretti. Sorry if I hacked your last name. What about hybrid car batteries?
I don't have any experience with that. I've heard of a couple people using it. We have a friend of ours,
Tom Morton,
who is currently going through a Tesla battery module install. They are Morton's on the Move. You can go to their Facebook or YouTube or whatever it is they have and find out more about their Tesla battery install. Justin, have you talked to anybody or any experience with that yourself?
I do not have any experience with it. I have not really looked into it very much.
I would point you to Morton's on
Morton's on the Move is probably your best
Morton
bet.
Probably would be your best bet.
I mean, he's an electrical engineer. He's pretty good up here. Really good up there.
If you're a do-it-yourselfer and you don't have a lot of experience and aren't one to...
It'll take a lot of research for somebody, for a DIY guy.
Yeah. Not that it can't be done.
And
but
generally those lithium car packs are 24 volt or 48 volt, so you have to know how to do a DC to DC convert for your 12 volt system, and it's somewhat involved. But I know there are several out there that have been successful at it, and I know Tom will be successful at his when he gets his done.
Yes. And I also, back to the panel size,
yeah,
I know that Tom also installed some
24 volt panels.
So
bigger panels.
He installed, I think, 280
watt panels.
24 volt
yeah,
panels.
24 volt panels, yep.
But again, I don't know all the details. I just, like everybody else, I just watch his YouTube videos.
But yeah, if you got questions on that, see Tom.
See Tom.
Morton's on the Move. You go Google them and find them on YouTube or wherever.
Romany Life says bad batteries can absolutely ruin your slide mechanisms. Motorhome manuals often say never to operate your slides without starting the engine. This is why. However, they're in a fifth wheel, so there's no engine to
I know
assist.
one thing we tried to do when we had our fifth wheels. One thing we tried to do is when we put our slides out, we kept that umbilical cord plugged in, just to give us a bit more juice. I'm not sure does that
now.
It worked.
We have, and I don't know during this redo of the redo.
Right.
I know we originally started talking about battery monitoring systems. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that when we put in our slides or push out our slides, our slide system or leveling system is usually using approximately 50 to 70 amps from the battery, 12 volt. So
it's a pretty good draw.
It is a huge draw from the battery bank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a battery that can't if you're running 1 or 2 batteries, in fact, I've seen manufacturers put out that they don't recommend running the new or the Lippert leveling system with anything less than 2 batteries.
Yep.
So it's definitely something you need to keep in mind. And I know that because of our battery bank size, our system is run way better.
Right.
Now,
Well, John is experiencing that too now,
yes,
because he actually has some really good batteries. The Full River LC16 batteries that they're running are awesome batteries, and I think his trailer is just so much happier with those in there. Everything's happier.
Yes.
Kevin Barone says, so you can run all the appliances on electronic. I think he means solar.
Well, I mean, within the capabilities of your inverter.
Of your inverter.
Yeah.
One thing you need to keep in mind is that in order to run all of your appliances, you definitely have to pay attention to how many watts each appliance is going to run. If your wife is running an 1800 watt hair dryer,
Hey now.
or you're running a double toaster, you may not necessarily want to power up the microwave at the time.
Yeah. Right. You have a 200 amp draw real quick.
200 amp draw real quick. Not that your system can't hold it, but
Right.
it's definitely something you need to keep in mind. I don't know how big.
Oh, hi.
I don't know how big my wife's hair straightener or how many watts her hair straightener uses.
It's probably up to 1250 watts.
But I do know that between the 1250 watts that her hair straightener uses and then
And
a
the
double toaster this morning, I was pulling 180 amps from my battery bank briefly this morning while I was making toast.
Okay.
Oh, another question.
Yeah. So Kevin Barone and Bill King both are touching on the same subject. Can you tilt the panels one way and the rest the other? That was from Kevin. And Bill says, do you install the panels so that you can tilt them in 2 different directions, or do they only tilt in one direction?
They generally will tilt in both directions. Most of the tilt kits I've seen will allow tilting in both directions, either off to one side or the other side.
Yes.
But you never want to tilt at the same time other directions.
No.
The idea is that if you're going to go out and boondock like we enjoy doing, when you park your truck, yes, you may have some epic views in one direction or another, but if you're looking at having to tilt your panels, you need to make sure that you kind of park so that when you tilt your panels,
you're optimizing the sun.
Yeah, you're going to optimize the sun. Now,
when we park, when I want to tilt, all our panels, the majority of our panels are on the passenger side of our motorhome. So when we go to tilt our panels, we park our windshield facing east, maybe a little bit northeast. Just a few degrees northeast, like 80 degrees versus 90 degrees.
Because you like to get the morning sun.
Because I want to get the morning sun, because I got to make my coffee, So by facing that 80 degrees east and tilting the panels, we're going to get, as soon as the sun breaches the horizon, we're going to start getting energy production. Now, up in Alaska, with the sun rotating around us so much, if you start tilting your panels one direction or the other, you'll gain some efficiency while the sun's on that side of your rig, but once it goes over the other side, those panels are useless.
Now, our setup, I have my panels tilted or set up to tilt basically to the driver's side of the trailer, away from the door, because when I park and I'm getting that sun, I would prefer that my patio area be shaded. That was one consideration we had, but it's just the way our roof was set up, that was the best place to put our panels. Now, with those panels, they'll either tilt one way or the other. I've yet to see a panel tilt kit that would allow you to tilt it 360. No. So, and when you start getting involved in that, you're talking about... The expense is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do know someone who has.
They had it on a
tracks
a dual axis tracking system,
But
which is
yeah.
crazy. It was one 200-watt panel on a bi-axis. It was crazy.
Karen Smith asks, we're looking at the trimetric TM2030A. Are you familiar with the battery monitor?
I am.
Yes.
That is exactly what I have.
And isn't that what you put in Jeff and Julie's?
No, we put the Victron in there.
Okay.
Which is
No,
awesome.
no. And Jeff and Julie's.
Jeff and Julie's was a Victron.
No.
Oh, it was a trimetric.
We put the trimetric.
It was a trimetric in 2030.
So you both have experience.
John's
Yes.
John's
was
we
the
put the Victron.
Yes. It was an easy install.
The trimetric gauge battery monitoring system, definitely a good thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
It works. It tells you all kinds of information. Now, with that being said, there's no issues with that monitoring system. But also look at Victron.
Mm-hmm.
Victron, if you're
Sophie.
if you're an electronic geek and you prefer the Bluetooth access, trimetric.
We're talking to you, Andrew.
We're talking to you, Andrew. Trimetric is not going to provide that information to you.
Nor
through
is
Bluetooth.
Nor is Magnum at this time. So my result for that is it gives me an excuse to go into the house and get a drink to look at my batteries.
So, yes. So, with the Victron system, they do have some of their gauges have Bluetooth communication, and they have a pretty sweet app that works for both Android and iPhone.
Yeah.
And instead of having a battery monitor mounted to your wall somewhere, you can still have that battery monitor to your wall, but
on your phone.
It'll also show you right on your phone, so that if you're sitting outside and you're cooking dinner or whatever, and you want to see what your battery status is,
it's easy to do.
It's easy to do. You can just open up your phone and look
with
at
our system, we started off with a Magnum inverter, and we already had the Magnum advanced remote control set up. So it made sense for us to go with the Magnum BMK and also the Magnum solar controller, because now I have just one box, one monitor that I go through and see everything on. I don't have separate. I don't have a Morningstar. I don't have a Victron. I don't have a Magnum. I have one thing that I can read everything through. So it's a convenience thing. That's just how my rig was built previously too.
Yes.
So Kevin's asking, if I invest in a 200-watt solar starter kit from Brian Boone, I don't have to have the inverter right away, I'm hoping.
The best way to start a solar, or the best way to start maybe in a two-stage setup would be to go with batteries and inverter first, and then solar panels and solar controller second.
And I might say you can always contact Brian Boone and he will get back to you.
Yeah, he'll generally get back to you either by phone call or message or something like that. Brian Boone's a great guy for helping other RVers get their solar system set up. He's been a fabulous help for all of us. He's a wealth of knowledge. There are some people out there in the world who don't necessarily like him personally, but the dude has done good for us, and he's a smart man. He knows what he's talking about. And
I don't think you can see me, but if I'll put in comments his blog website, but it's gotsolarinstalled.blogspot.com.
Yes. And you're going to add on to that?
Well, I think it brings us back to something that might have not been put into this segment, is that the steps, the recommended steps that I have, if I could share, the best steps involved to going to a solar system. A battery monitoring system.
That should be your
right
first
off
purchase.
off the bat.
Yep, get that.
That'll tell you, and until you start building your system, it'll tell you how you're treating your batteries.
Mm-hmm.
That should be your first start. The next step would be, look, once you have your knowledge of what your usage is, build your battery bank and look at upgrading your stock converter with a charger of some sort.
Right.
Now, whether that's jumping right into an inverter / charger, like what well,
That's what you did.
an inverter charger / hybrid
switch.
inverter,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Because the stock converter that is in most RVs these days, that the standard manufacturer installs in your RV, that stock the stock converter, one, it's really not a good battery charger.
It's a low amperage, lower, maybe is it 60 amp or 50? I don't know.
I've seen them. They haven't even put in that much amperage.
Yeah.
So it's not a great charger to begin with. It's most of them are not smart enough. They don't have the algorithms to completely charge the battery to begin with.
Especially when you're getting into bigger banks of batteries. When you get into 4 and 6 batteries, those installed converters just don't do it.
So look at your converter, or look at doing your battery bank and inverter / charger systems right next, and then once when you can afford it, then figure out your panels.
Yeah.
Joe Allen just concurs. He says, agree, batteries and inverter first. OEM is junk, in my opinion.
Yes, it is. It's amazing the cheap quality that is included in these RVs.
Bill King, again, he says, what do you recommend for battery monitoring system? And you were saying the
Trimetric is a great battery monitoring system.
That was $180 out the door with the wiring harness.
$180. I can't remember what Andrew paid.
It beats the dummy lights.
Yeah, it certainly beats the dummy lights.
The Victrons are they're right in that same area.
The Victrons.
I think they're more like about for the Bluetooth it's like $225 with the wiring harness. The Magnum PTs or the Magnum BMKs, I think are right about $100. But I mean, I can't recommend one over the other. I can just say get one.
Just make sure that your battery monitoring system is the kind that reads the amperage through a shunt. Because there's cheap battery gauges on eBay that'll cost you $30-$40, and it'll tell you what your battery voltage is and all that stuff, and it will not give you a good picture of where your batteries are.
Correct.
So definitely look at a good monitoring system.
All right, well, we're nearing 55 minutes. So if people have questions and want to get a hold of you, do you want to give your email address that they can contact you?
We are opting out of normal at gmail.com.
And we're palhuntertravels@gmail.com and also on Facebook and YouTube.
And I already know the answer for both of you, but Joe Allen says, you guys did an awesome job on John's rig. Sophie, stop it.
She's playing.
I can supply the beer for my install. LOL.
Oh, I don't know about beer anymore. I mean,
It might say we're not for hire at this point of the game.
If I get to know you well enough, and if you get me drunk enough, I'll do anything.
No.
No. No.
It's
we installed John's because it was a necessity for him. He had a situation where his previous installer was not able to meet his deadline. So we jumped in and helped a good friend out. It worked out great for him and us.
There's plenty of resources out there.
There are.
Brian Boone is a great resource.
There are a ton. If you're looking for somebody to install, definitely look at contacting Brian Boone, or there are other install services out there. In the long run, I don't think it's all that difficult. If
you do a little bit of your own research, you can probably, if you're pretty handy, you can probably do it yourself. Just do a bit of research and get guidance and maybe draw up your outline and submit it to Brian for review and recommendations, and he can give you an idea of what you need to change. And another resource, or another thing about Brian and other electrical engineers, is they can kind of gauge you or guide you towards a proper wiring gauge you should be using for your panel, your combiner box down to your solar controller, and interconnecting your batteries and everything else.
We're definitely available if you have questions.
Yep.
but neither one of us are in a state or a period of our, travel
we're
that
not
we're not going
necessarily
to travel
installers.
around the country to install systems.
There's several other people who do that.
We have way too much scenery we got to look at.
Yep.
So,
I'm also, because I don't know if the chat is going to show up once this live ends, because we didn't do it how we did last week. I'm going to copy all the chat and I'm going to put it on our website, and I'll see if I can do it also on the YouTube chat if it doesn't transfer over, just so you all can see the questions asked. But I think I've also verbally said it all. But there's been some other chatter in here as well that we didn't. People are talking back and forth.
Oh,
but
cool. Okay.
We just want to thank you all for joining us tonight.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties early on. We were trying to use our fancy OBS and I guess our bandwidth wasn't great enough to handle all that.
Yeah, it was crashing.
Yeah. But I think it was a great talk, Justin. Thank you for your time and knowledge. I mean, you did your own install. You did a lot of research ahead of time, and I mean, everything on that rig was working great.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, is that, you know, being able to live the way we do, with the assets that we have, being totally self-sufficient, keeping our battery or our generator usage to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge cost savings. It's a little bit up front, but, you know, there's huge cost savings and a lot of advantages where there's no reason to plug in.
Right, and I think we talked about our return on investment on our video last week, or Monday. Basically, in our $6,500 system, it only took us 160 days of boondocking to recoup that expense, because we're not parking in RV parks, and that's basically figuring off of a $40 a night expense for an RV park. I know that's more expensive than some campgrounds and all that, but if you're going to RV parks, $40 is kind of cheap, and it took us 160 nights to pay that off.
Well, to give you a ballpark range of how much our camping has cost us this year,
I love it.
We have spent a total of $28 since the beginning of January for all of our campground expenses.
We've only paid for 2 nights this entire trip, and we're night 80.
We paid for 3, but one of them was free. So
How much was our at that war?
It was $28 a night.
So we paid almost $60, 58.6.
Yeah. So the cost savings of being able to stay in public land and not have to worry about being connected to a pedestal,
right? It's so
and
nice.
Still have access to all the full functions of our trailer, and being able to make toast, brew a pot of coffee,
and straighten her hair.
And straighten her hair.
It's important.
It's I mean, it's huge.
When you live in the rig full time, it's nice to have the conveniences of a home.
We're at 59 minutes. Plug your channels and say goodnight.
Wow, we're getting cut off.
Wow. We're done.
Where's the code? Kane.
My wife and I are opting out of normal.com.
We'll put a link in the description.
We have a travel blog. We have a small YouTube channel with a small collection as of right now. And that's Instagram is where we are huge on opting out of normal.
Some of their photos are awesome.
Oh, real quick, tell people they can get a tax deduction on solar.
Oh my gosh! Don't forget about that.
Save your receipts.
Save your receipts. The labor, the parts, and everything. Save all that stuff for your tax rebate. I believe it's extended to 2020, 2024, something like that. It's extended for quite a while.
30%.
It was like a 30% rebate. Our $6,500 system, we got $2,000 back in a credit. That goes against our future taxes.
Yeah, and that's a credit.
It's a credit. You don't get cash back. Yeah. It's a credit towards your future taxes.
So
look into that. It's a federal tax
and it works on second
homes.
Second homes. However, right this year, fifth wheels do something. Next year. Fifth wheels aren't included, but they're working on legislation.
That change.
Well, I thought that was just for the interest.
That might
For
be
the-
for
Oh,
for the
yes,
mortgages.
yes,
For the mortgage
that's right.
interest, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
mortgage.
that's
so
not
that's
the-
totally
solar is-
different.
solar is totally different.
rebatable.
Pal
All
Hana,
right.
I'm Pal Hana Travels. You're on our channel. Thank you guys for watching. This is Stacy. I'm
Bye.
Gary, Justin, and Stacy. Thank you for your
You wanna get
time.
over there?
Oh, she's gonna come in and make a
Yeah.
yay!
Yeah, come.
She's been our camera girl.
There we
I'm a
are.
camera girl.
Hey.
Thanks all,
All right,
for
thanks,
watching,
guys.
and we'll see you next time. Pow Hana.
Keep those comments coming and
Hit the
all that
like,
good
hit
stuff.
subscribe to them, and come back next Friday. We'll have another live chat for you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.